Good afternoon. Welcome to this last session. My name is Lotta Kratz. I'm a lecturer here at Clara University, Communication Department. We'll see examples of creative work, and I'm really happy that in universities we use creative approaches and we talk about it and we understand it as research. I think, if anything, the coming hour, if we prepared everybody to feel as well as think, that would be helpful. First student presenter, Katie.
Go ahead, Katie.
Humboldt State University.
The worst thing you can do is nothing. That's what autism advocate Temple Grandin once said about educating autistic children. But the thing is, I think she's wrong. I think that the stories that we as a society tell about autism are so toxic that maybe it would be better to tell them nothing at all. This month, April, is Autism Awareness Month. April, to me, means a lot of things. It means warmer weather, sunny skies, and studying for finals. It also means being bombarded by media telling me that I'm a tragedy, that my life is a disease, and that the world would be better off without me. I'm autistic, and that's what autism awareness looks like to me as an autistic person. But it doesn't need to be this way. The ways in which we represent and discuss autism are deeply broken. But even the simple act of questioning these old scripts can begin to break them down and change our society for the better. When you think about autism, there are three things that you, as members of the public, need to remember. First, that mainstream representations of autism do not benefit autistic people. Second, that the way that we talk about autism can have real, tangible harms. And finally, that autistic people do have a voice, even when it isn't spoken. Our society's discourse on autism, as it stands, places a lot of focus on the parents or families of autistic individuals, rather than on the individual themselves. Organizations talk about the strain on families, or how tragic it is to have a child diagnosed, but not about what the child themselves wants or needs. One reflection of this is how communication is represented. A lot of children with autism are never able to speak fluently, but many of them are quite intelligent and can use other forms of communication, such as typing, sign language, or assistive technology. There's such a focus on speech, though, that it's seen as a failure or settling for something less when people use these. We're all here at a communication conference, and everyone here needs to understand that communication comes in many forms. Non-standard forms of communication are no less meaningful because they're not how the majority of people do it. And some autistic people don't have any way of reliably communicating. And that makes things difficult, but it's a mistake to think that it implies anything about the intelligence or worth of the person. There's such a diversity in how autistic people communicate that many times it takes a long time for a person to figure out which method works for them as an individual. It can be a long time before you can get your thoughts across in a way that people understand. Another aspect of this is the way in which many people talk about autism as a diagnosis. People say, don't label yourself, but the label is a useful tool. It allows us to connect with a community of people like us and understand the challenges that we face and how to work around them. Saying don't label yourself is invalidating our experience and claiming that it's the same as yours when it obviously isn't. Also, it implies that the label is inherently bad and that using it makes you seem inferior. Letting us label ourselves actually lets us make valuable social connections with people who share some of our experiences. It lets us accept our entire being and understand who we are. It also gives a broader and more accurate picture to both parents and autistic people who are looking for their first information about autism. Autism is only a bad word because we act like it is. Although at first glance these views may seem only mildly harmful, they can pose some very serious problems for autistic people. Because of our bias towards spoken communication, many autistic people continually have their input and experiences discounted because of the way they communicate. People try to correct behaviors that make life difficult for parents and teachers, but don't pay attention to the reason that the autistic person might be doing those things. Even when autistic adults who can communicate do so, they're often ignored or told that they're not representative of lower functioning people who can't communicate effectively. In other words, parents and autism awareness organizations are setting up a catch-22 where the only autistic people whose thoughts are worth representing are the people who have no way to convey those thoughts, even though many of the people speaking out at one point also had no way to communicate. In the most serious cases, this disregard of the autistic voice can actually lead to death, when killing a disabled child is seen as understandable or a mercy. In the video Autism Every Day by Autism Speaks, one of their former executives says in direct view and hearing of her autistic daughter, "I realized I had sat in the car for about 15 minutes and actually contemplated putting Jody in the car and driving off the George Washington Bridge, that would be preferable to putting her in one of these schools. It's only because of Lauren, the fact that I had another child, that I probably didn't do it." This is the former executive of one of the biggest autism awareness organizations in the country, saying that murdering her child is preferable to putting her in a special ed class, in front of her daughter. The worst thing about this to me, although it's hard to find the worst in a mess this terrible, is that there's no reason to think that her daughter didn't understand everything she was saying. There's a quote that I like from a presentation by Arian Zurcher, whose daughter Emma doesn't speak well, but has now learned to type. Emma has now told us, through writing, how very wrong we were. We talked about Emma in front of her. We would say all kinds of things that she has now told us she not only understood, but was very hurt by. There's no reason to think that this woman's daughter isn't exactly the same as Emma. There's no reason to think that she doesn't understand what her mother is saying. And it's not like it's an unrealistic threat either. There have been a lot of cases in the very recent past where parents actually did kill their autistic child. Take Alex Sperdalakis, a 14-year-old boy. In the summer of 2013, his mother stabbed him 4 times in the chest and once in the hand while he was trapped in his bed, unable to move. Then she went on to kill their family cat. Even now, 2 years later, when I Google Alex's name, the majority of links talk about his mother's situation and how tragic it is. They don't really talk much about Alex, and almost none of them mention how horrible it is that she murdered her child. And he's not the only one. Even as recently as last month, there have been cases of parents killing their autistic kid. And that's just what I can find in a quick Google search. What kind of society are we creating? Where imperfections are seen as a just cause for murder, and where parents are excused for killing an innocent child. The only way we can move past this moment in history, a moment where we murder our own children and call it kindness, is to listen to autistic people. Take autistic voices as truth. Listen to us because this is the experience that we have lived. Every autistic person is different, but let us be the judge of what will help. Beyond just listening, critically evaluate and challenge the negative things people say about autism. Whenever autism comes up, sit back and think, if I were autistic, how would this make me feel? A few years ago, I was staying at my grandma's house over Christmas, and we were watching TV, just me, my grandma, and my mom. And the news came on about the Sandy Hook shooting over in Newtown, Connecticut. And this was just a few days after it happened. And the news announcer said that they had heard reports that Adam Lanza, the shooter who murdered 20 children, might have been autistic, that he might have had Asperger's. And they said this like it meant something, but autism has nothing to do with the kind of violence that makes someone shoot out in elementary school. Nothing. I'm pretty sure my mom still remembers how angry I was that they treated that as relevant information. Your job as non-autistic people is to see that newscaster and wonder, why is it important to bring up autism in connection to this mass murderer? Your job is to wonder, if I were autistic, would I like people comparing me to a mass murderer? If you aren't sure how autistic people feel, seek out the opinions of those who share their thoughts publicly. Listen to Temple Grandin. who's a well-spoken university professor and who grew up in the 50s, back before autism was well known. You can listen to Emma Zurcher-Long, a teenager who, together with her mother, the woman I quoted earlier, records her thoughts in beautiful, insightful writing and posts it on their blog. You can listen to Amy Sequenzia, one of my favorite autistic advocates, who can't speak at all, but is one of the most brilliant writers that I have read. You can even listen to me. Just listen. I'd like to end with a quote from one of Amy's poems that I feel like encapsulates the spirit of this presentation. I want you to walk in my shoes and try not to feel pain when the people pretending to help, the people saying you are wrong, refuse to see I am complete. I am not broken. I am not normal, nor I want to be. I just want to be respected for being me.